Hey, good morning and welcome back to Taylor Time Live. I'm your host, Seth Gladden, and today we have a great show planned for you. If you tried tuning in last month and missed us, you saw technical difficulty issues, we apologize for that. We will make that episode up, but our internet was out here at our tech center, at our studio, so we weren't able to go live. But today we're here. We're glad you've joined us and are catching this. If you have missed any of our previous episodes in our series, The Biggest Challenges Facing the Flooring Industry, I encourage you to just go back to our YouTube channel. You can check those out. We also have a bunch of great content from before that as well in previous years. So go check those out. But today we're going to be continuing with callbacks and inspections. And we have a great insider for you that I'll introduce to you in just a moment. And we'll get going. But before that, I just want to bring on Reggie Tucker with Floor Covering News. And we're going to do our In the News segment with Reggie. So, Reggie, thank you so much for being here and glad to have you on the show.
Hey Seth, thanks so much for the invitation. Happy to be here. First timer.
Yeah, well, hopefully we love to have you back anytime. So, great to have you here and see you this morning. So, Reggie, there's some exciting stuff going on, but a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Floor Covering News, I know, just recently announced the winners of its 26th Annual Award of Excellence program. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, happy to. Thank you. That's a tradition at Floor Covering News for the past 26 years. It's an awards program that we hold in conjunction with Informa Exhibitions, the promoters, organizers of the Surfaces Show, also known as TICE. So happy to partner with them on that effort. And basically, the awards program, it recognizes the industry's manufacturers in all of the different flooring categories: hardwood, laminate, carpet, area rugs, ceramic tile, resilient, especially resilient. In recent years, has gained more of that spotlight with all the exciting array of LVP, SPC, and WPC products hitting the market. And certainly, laminate, of course, is also making a resurgence. So that program is now in its 26th year, and it's taken on additional significance, certainly in these past few years. And normally, the awards presentation takes part in mid-May, and during the pandemic, obviously, we were not permitted to put on that event where we host
Okay.
the award winners at the Garden City Hotel in New York City. So we were happy to resume that program. It did take place in 2021, but not in its usual time slot. That occurred in the fall. So 2022 marked the first time that this awards program returned to its original time slot in May. So we were happy to host some of the industry's major manufacturers in New York, and about 24 awards were doled out in various categories.
Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations on 26 years. That's quite an amazing run with that, and great to be able to have you guys back and in person, I guess. So, can you share any information about any of the winners of this year's program?
Absolutely, absolutely. Mohawk and Engineered Floors came up big winners in this year's competition. They in the respective over $5 billion sales category and the under $5 billion sales category.
Okay.
In addition to the best overall categories, Mohawk's Aladdin brand won for Main Street Commercial, and perennial tile winner Dow Tile
So
claimed Group A for tile.
I think we actually have a graphic on this too. Do you
And
mind if we put that up on the screen?
absolutely, let it roll.
Yeah. So
Yeah, those are
we've got a couple
folks,
pictures here.
the team. Okay. Yes, that particular photo there, those photos there were Mohawk and Engineered Floors, respectively, along with members of each of the team. We have Steve Feldman and Dustin Aronson presenting the awards as well, and Dana Hicks and Dana Teague were on hand as well as co-sponsors of the program. So that was a fun, enjoyable evening.
Okay, very good. And then I think, yeah, here we go. So I apologize for interrupting you. You were walking us through this, but go ahead and we'll keep this graphic up here alongside.
No, it's actually, yeah, it's actually great timing. This allows an opportunity for the audience to see the different categories of award winners, that year, and you'll notice that especially with the hardwood, how we divided it up into to four different categories this year to allow for some more winners.
Okay.
And there's some familiar names on there, and there's some new names as well in each of these categories. For example, beyond the top overall categories of best overall, we had Norsen take home the award for carpet in the B category. That's the first time for that company in the FC News Award of Excellence program. We had perennial return winners like Mannington and In-House for Laminate. Area Rugs in the Stanton, another long-time winner, and two other Mohawk brands, Dow Tile and American Marazzi, swept in the tile category. And you'll also notice there too, we also recognize not just the primary floor covering companies, but also the padding, the technology manufacturers that support the industry as well.
Yeah, and you weren't kidding when you said resilience a big focus, and obviously it should be. So. Well, great to see this. What a list. I mean, there's like you said, a lot of names we know, a lot of up and coming names. So really cool to see. I guess before we transition gears quickly, is there anything, Reggie, that manufacturers can do in the future to help them improve their odds of winning for next year?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. And we're helping the manufacturers to do that. First and foremost, we've expanded the categories. If you look at the hardwood, for example, it used to be just hardwood A and hardwood B category. But what we decided to do, given the range and complexity and diversity of sources of different regions around the world, we decided to expand the hardwood category to include different major regions of where hardwood flooring is produced. Especially in this day and age of supply chain challenges, a lot of the manufacturers who source different veneers, cores, and material have had to expand their scope of products. So you'll see there on the screen their domestic, Canadian, import Asia, and import Europe and South America categories. And what that does is expands the potential pool of potential winners for each of these categories. Because what happened in the years past is we had the same winners dominate in each of the categories, and that really dissuades some companies from participating. Second, to your second question about how manufacturers can get more involved, basically one word: promote, promote, promote.
Okay.
And what we do is there's no charge to enter this contest. All that we ask is that the manufacturers encourage their retail partners and their distributor partners to vote for the contest. They're automatically entered on the ballot every year. Floor Covering News does a fair amount of aggressive production and marketing through our various channels, including digital, e-newsletter, website, print as well. We just encourage all the manufacturers, when you see your name on the ballot there, to encourage or retailers to go out there and vote and support what we believe is an excellent awards program and an awards program that helps elevate the manufacturers in the eyes of the retailers and distributor audiences.
Awesome. Well, good news, and that's a great recap. If you're a manufacturer watching, be sure you promote and encourage people to go vote for you. Reggie, real quick, and then we're going to have to transition to our main segment today, but I want to ask you one other question real fast. I know you guys are set to release your annual statistical issue, which is obviously a big deal. I know it hasn't released yet, but do you have anything, any little teasers you can give us, or any quick info on that?
Absolutely happy to do it. It's probably the most highly anticipated issue of the year. It comes out, every June or late June, early July, and the statistical issue covers the sales and volume activity in the floor covering industry from the year prior. So although our statistics issue will be released next week, it will cover activity in 2021. And in terms of ATISA, I'm happy to report that the flooring industry actually achieved growth in both the sales category and both the volume, category as well, as opposed to being down less than 1% in 2021. We're happy to report that flooring sales grew by a whopping 16.3% in
Wow.
2021.
Wow.
And it's important to note that that's that's right.
Okay.
Hats
Well,
off to the industry and the manufacturers and the retailers and distributors to support them. So
yeah.
that's significant. Sales were up 16.3% to 26 billion, and volume was up a little less percentage, about 6.2%, and that's a virtue of all the impact of the price increases. So
Sure.
we're happy to report that encouraging news, for our retail audience.
Yeah. Well, and thank you so much for sharing that. I know your statistical issue is a hot item, but getting that little preview, I don't know if you've shared it anywhere else yet, but maybe we can say you heard it here first. So, so Reggie, thank you so much.
Some people will be hearing it here first. Yes.
Good. Well, Reggie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to have you on, and just another thank you to Floor Covering News for you guys' partnership, and look forward to having you back on the show at a later time.
Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, so now let's jump into our actual segment for today on callbacks and inspections. And so this should be a great segment if you are anywhere involved in the flooring installation process, or just genuinely curious about how this all works. This will be great information for you. So we'll get some of that. Want to remind you, if you do have questions during the show, just shoot a text to us. You can see the number right there on the screen. Text that. We'll be fielding those live if you have any questions. As always, if it's after the show, you can reach out to us in any other way. So now let's go ahead and meet Bob Blochinger, who is our guest for today. Bob, thank you for being here.
Quite welcome. Pleasure and an honor.
Good. Well, hey, we're so glad to have you, Bob. And I read through, you sent me an email with some of your credentials and certifications, and I don't have time on the show to talk about all of them because you've got quite a history. Can you give us a quick overview of just kind of your history in the industry and what you do there with your company?
I'm sorry, the overview of the inspection industry?
No. Of if you can just tell us a little bit about who you are and your history in the industry.
Okay.
Just a minute or two of who's Bob.
I look older, but I started young. I started in the construction business, or industry, I should say. I was a finisher. Did some roofing work, some carpentry, window switch out and whatnot. And particularly on this one job, I saw the floor guys are doing work in the air conditioning. And I said, what am I doing out here doing concrete work in the sun? So I switched over and found out that we don't always work in air conditioning. But I enjoyed it. It gave me some sense of pleasure in doing something and completing it, then standing back to look at it. Basically, I was a tradesman. And then as time went on, I was in the water and fire restoration part of the business. And I opened up an installation company in the 80s where I was a floor covering contractor. And my primary was working with high-end goods, the woven wools, private yachts, big houses, whatnot. Here in South Florida, we have a lot of that stuff going on. And basically, I went where the money is. And then when I became a little older, I decided that I didn't really want to do flooring installation contracting forever. I started to get education and certification in various disciplines of flooring as an inspector. And I've been a full-time inspector for 10 years, but certified for over 30. And I
Okay.
use that certification in my business as something different than the next guy had. So my bid work was a little more impressive.
Gotcha. Well, as I mentioned, you've got quite the resume, so I appreciate you giving us a little bit of that background. And as you said, you've been doing flooring inspections solely for 10 years, been certified in it for over 30. And we are just so grateful to have you on the show today and shed some light on this topic. So, Bob, let's start with callbacks. First, can you explain just really quickly, what is a callback?
Callback is I'm going to call it a negative on your completed installation. That's where the person that hired you, the consumer, the contractor, found a deficiency in the appearance of what you just put on the floor, or perhaps you forgot to put up a molding. It could be something simple, but if it's a callback where the flooring is not performing as intended, that could become a serious issue. Such as, let's say you installed a few bedrooms of carpet, and about 6 months later you got a phone call, which is a callback as well, whereby that there are wrinkles. Well, is that because of the way you installed it is incorrect? You didn't use a power stretch or the wrong tackless, or is it because the guy that did the carpet cleaning overwet the carpet? So a guy like me, an inspector, would come in and find out which of the two is the real cause.
Yeah.
And in general, a callback is any time that your completed job is in question.
Yep. So first of all, if you're an installer, you don't want callbacks. So that's what a callback is you don't want it. But what are some of the most
Correct.
common causes of callbacks that you've seen?
On, let's say, glue down resilient flooring, there are some bubbles because you didn't apply a correct volume of adhesive, or
Yep.
perhaps it skinned over in some areas where it shouldn't have. On carpet installation, if it's an adhesive direct glue down, you could have the same issue where there wasn't enough volume to hold the carpet down to the concrete or to the wood. Then, I'm sorry. Then you may have a power stretching issue because you didn't power stretch the carpet. Perhaps the seam doesn't look quite the way it's supposed to. Call back on carpet tile or carpet stretching glue down, resilient flooring, even ceramic tile, porcelain tile, and marble tile. You can have callbacks because of lippage, where the adjoining tile is higher than the next one. Or perhaps somebody dropped something and found a hollow spot. Well, then you get called back to find out what you're going to do to fill that hollow spot with setting materials so it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a myriad of other reasons for callbacks.
Sure. So would you say in today's world, do you see more callbacks in the residential or commercial market? Is it pretty split? What's your take on that?
I'm going to use the word split. Callbacks on residential can be very simple, or perhaps it was, at times I find a callback is because the consumer didn't like the color or the appearance. Once it's installed in the showroom, it was beautiful and perfect, but when it's in a home, in the setting, it didn't look right. And a callback for commercial, you could be part of a action that involves you because you touched the job, you were on the job, but it's really more serious than that, where every trade that was on the job was called in because the owners believe there's some sort of a construction defect. So callbacks aren't always your fault. It could be the fault of somebody else.
Interesting. Okay. But either way, you're having to go back out to that job site. So still not a good thing, but hopefully not your fault. So, Bob, what can installers do?
It's not. But
Sorry, go ahead.
What to do what? One of the things I enjoyed when I had my contracting business for about 35 years, I didn't put a limit on my warranty, my workmanship warranty. I basically gave it a lifetime warranty because when they were ready for the next job, I wanted that call.
Yeah. That's the
So
kind of callback you want to get.
that's a good
is the next
callback.
job. Yeah, that's a good callback. Is right.
Yes.
So, Bob,
Yes.
how can an installer avoid getting callbacks? What would be your biggest piece of advice to not have to deal with that?
Before you start the job, look at the space, look at the substrate, see what kind of condition it is. If it's a commercial job site, will you have control of your workspace? Which means if you're putting the flooring down, are you going to have the ceiling guys working on top of you? If that's the case, I would not. I would not even start the job until the job site, that particular area I'm working in, is under my full control. So that's one thing. Start from the bottom. Another way to avoid callbacks is to ensure that you read, understand, and apply the guidelines from the manufacturer of the product, whether it's the adhesive, whether it's moisture testing equipment, meters, the whatever flooring product. They all have certain qualities and ways of, I'm sorry, I lost the word, acclimating themselves to a job.
Yep.
That you want to follow these things, because if something does happen, you can easily say, yes, I followed the instructions. Something else happened after I left.
Right. Well, and you are literally speaking music to our ears as a flooring adhesive manufacturer. Just read the label. You know, a lot of things can be avoided that way. So
read the labels.
Yep. So, Bob, what is the biggest difference between, I think most people hopefully know, but the difference between a callback and inspection, when does it move from one to the other?
The callback is that phone call you get in the office and somebody says, we have a problem, you need to come out and take a look at it. So you, as the flooring installer or contractor, go to the job, see what's going on, and you say, this is beyond my scope of understanding. And whatever I say may or may not be believed by the parties at hand. So you call a third-party expert, such as a flooring inspector, and he will come out, he will evaluate the facts, not the emotions of the people that are there, but the facts of what he sees, compares it to current industry guidelines for installations and maintenance and care and custody, and then write a report with all the facts in it, maybe some photographs. He will take some measurements, perhaps use some meters, and then write a conclusion, which is pointing the finger at the causation, not necessarily the person, but the causation of the negative issue.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's easy enough to understand, and that's a great description of the difference between callback and inspection and the process. So, Bob, how does somebody become, you obviously are one, you said you've been certified for 30 years and doing it for 10. How does someone become a certified flooring inspector?
You have an interest in educating yourself within the flooring industry to understand the how and the why. For years I've been saying the formal education of a classroom is the why you do it, why you do something a certain way. The how-to is when you physically get on your knees and do the work. So we have two different areas there. And as an inspector, you can just expand upon that. And there are so many different disciplines that you can pick your own area that you want to become an expert in. Another thing I keep saying is when I became like 40 years old, maybe 45, my body decided I just can't do this day to day anymore. So therefore, how am I going to be able to stand up and make money? At that point, I started a 10-year program on taking a certification class once every year. All these classes, you've got to travel to a city, and they are from 3 days to 2 weeks in length of time to become certified. So you have that formal education, then you take the test. At certain disciplines, you have to do a hands-on exam, not just look at it and write about it. So after those 10 years, I had what I wanted to, and I started full-time. And as far as the money goes, what you can make, you can do 6 figures in a year.
Okay.
It's possible, but you have to specialize in certain things, in certain areas.
So speaking of specializing, so it sounds like there's different courses you can take at different places. And you said 3 days to a couple of weeks is kind of the range?
Yes.
Okay. And then are
Yes.
there different certifications for different flooring types? So like if I wanted to be a resilient inspector, is that different than a wood inspector or a carpet inspector?
Each one is different. In carpet, you have the various installation systems you have to understand. You've got to understand fibers. You have to understand maintenance, and then you jump into: is it residential? Is it commercial? Is it hospitality? Is it custom? Custom's a wide open area, and that's where you can work on a $15,000 9x12, and you really you don't have room for error. In resilient, there are various products. You have the I'm going to call it the medical type flooring in hospitals and doctors' offices, or you go to LVT planks, glue down, click system, VCT, solid vinyl, the rubber tiles, and each one has its own peculiar way of performing under installation and in the environmental space it's in. So yes, you've got to take each one separately. Some schools have a whole day for just resilient flooring, but you can't specialize in one. You've got to go out and search that particular area, and it makes you a better inspector if you do specialize, because then you, just like a doctor, you understand that specialization more than just a general knowledge of it.
Yeah.
The same thing goes with ceramics, porcelain, marble. The specialties are very useful in your business.
Yeah. So does someone need a certain type of background or career path before becoming an inspector, or what does that look like?
The background, I'm going to say, in my real personal opinion, unless you have been on your knees, you don't have an understanding of how to inspect standing up. You've got to have some sort of a installation background. It doesn't matter which flooring product that you have an installation background in, but it gives you an understanding of what that person is going through that particular day to make this negative issue happen. At times, a job failure is just because the installer had a bad day. Simple as that. Or he was short on labor, assisted labor, and it's one of those things where the inspector doesn't want to end up blaming the installer 99% of the time. He's got to give him a fair shake, because it's not always him. Now, the going further into the inspection world, having a ability to write English, proper English, to write a report is very important, because you can go out there with all sorts of product knowledge, installation knowledge, labor knowledge, and whatnot, but unless you can transfer that knowledge into a written report that is readable, makes sense, and, as I say, passes the first reading of an attorney, because you never know where that's going to go. So understanding how to write properly is paramount to being a good inspector.
That's a good tip. So, well, Bob, we have just another minute left here, but what happens after an inspection?
The inspector, if he's asked to do recommended or suggested corrective actions, at that point you become a consultant. You're no longer an inspector. And what you're doing is telling people a protocol on how to correct it, whether it's a repair or full replacement, and how to do it properly. So you're wearing a different hat at that point, because you're already inspected. Now you become a consultant. There's 3 words I used: before, during, and after, where you can be an inspector in a positive mode. Before the job gets started, you go into and evaluate the site conditions, the substrate conditions, and then the during is you perform oversight on the installation if it's correct, to industry standards. And of course, the negative side is the after as an inspection. Inspector to find cause.
I like that, before, during, and after. So there's the good side of inspection and then the not so good side. So
yes.
Well,
yes.
Well, Bob.
There is. The first two are the good side.
Yep. Well, it has been great to have you today. We are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. And I know we've just begun to tap into your wealth of knowledge, but I'm sure people could reach out to you outside this as well. So remember, Bob Blochinger with Blochinger and Company. Bob, do you have any last words or ways for people to contact you if they have questions about this?
My email.
Or just your website, or
if I may, it's my name. I don't have a website.
Okay.
I go by email and phone call.
Yep.
I'm old school. And I welcome any questions. I will answer them, as best as I can. And I do appreciate, and I'm honored that you allow me to come up on your show and explain inspections.
Of course, thank you.
I appreciate it.
It's been great to have you, Bob. We'll talk to you again soon. So that is all the time we have for today. I just want to thank you for tuning in. Man, what a wealth of knowledge on callbacks and inspections. Also, in the news segment, we got some really cool information on the statistics of the flooring industry and the growth that was experienced last year. So if you missed the very beginning, go back and check that out. But we're really glad to have Reggie on here as well with floor covering news. So if you haven't already, go check us out online. Check out our website, our app. You can follow us on social media. We encourage you to engage with us there. You can check out our YouTube channel where we have not only previous live events, but also short video clips called tips, about 1 to 2 minutes on certain installation techniques. And remember, come back next month, every third Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Taylor Time Live. So tune in next month. We're going to be talking about claims and litigation. So kind of taking this to the next step. So you don't want to miss it. And until then, just remember, we're Taylor Adhesives. We're with you every step.